It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at CrainTeam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and is looking forward to a Happy New Year as well. It's a new year for Razorbacks. Also, will be a better year than it's been in years past. We're going to discuss some of that. We're going to know so much about this team here in the next couple of weeks as this rosters get put together with the transfer portal coming up. Of course, we know the portal has really been open. In disguise, I guess, as a period of a non-portal openness. I don't know what you call it, but I don't think it's fair, as I said in the other show, to call it a black market because everybody is involved in the transfer portal right now. We're just going to know what becomes of what's going on right now in the January 2nd through 16th window. So we're going to talk about all that. We'll talk about everything that's happened lately, and we'll talk Razorback basketball as well with Connor Goodson, and we're going to get to your questions. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hawg Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit CrainTeam.com.
The SEC is just 2-4 in bowl games so far. There aren't any bowls today. This is Monday, December 29th, 2025. No bowl games today for the SEC anyway, but you've got Tennessee and Illinois on December 30th. That should be an interesting matchup. Brett Bielema's Illinois fighting the Illini versus Josh Heupel's Tennessee Volunteers. That is at, 4:30? Are these Central Times or Eastern Time? I always tell our guys, when you're writing an article, always put Central Time or Eastern Time or whatever time, we're in, just to avoid any confusion. I hate when people don't do that. You got Vanderbilt and Iowa tomorrow. This is listed at noon again. Why would you not just put that? Eastern or Central? Anyway, so some interesting games coming up, obviously, with SEC teams, but SEC just 2-4. Normally I'd be like, years ago, I guess I would have been like, oh man, the SEC is not what it says it is. But obviously now none of this really matters. How can you judge LSU losing to Houston when they don't even have their, head coach coaching the game? Missouri without their starting quarterback. Of course, Virginia, I'm sure, has issues too. But Missouri only scoring 7 points yesterday. Ole Miss, of course, beat Tulane in the college football playoff first round. Texas A&M lost to Miami in the first round. And Alabama beat Oklahoma. So that's one of the losses right there by an SEC team. So, I mean, who cares really? Like, these bowl games mean absolutely nothing. So, yeah. You got App State today. I mean, if you want to watch a former Razorback coach, Dow Loggins, his App State squad, what are they, the Mountaineers, playing Georgia Southern. That is at 1 o'clock Central Time. This site does actually list that. So that's 1 o'clock on ESPN today. So coming up here in just a little bit. I'd also like to congratulate myself for winning the Fantasy Football League this year with all of my former Phi Delta Pledge brothers. We've been doing this for like 20 years. I think this is my third or fourth Super Bowl title, but won the division, won the overall, and won the Super Bowl. Banner year. Trevor Jackson's the latest Razorback to enter the transfer portal. Not a huge surprise there, although it did look like at one point that he was going to stay. We actually had him and those guys announcing that they were coming back, but looks like he had a change of heart somewhere along the way. we've been building out this transfer portal live tracker. So the latest things, you can keep up with all of it at HawgSports, but the latest to happen, obviously, Trevor Jackson. That was at 10:21 a.m. this morning. Sunday at 5:04, Blake Cherry made his decision to enter the transfer portal. What I'd heard with Cherry, there's kind of mixed reviews with him. Some guys thought he had a very high ceiling. Some guys, maybe didn't feel that way. And long story short, I guess didn't come to a deal with Blake Cherry. Now, what I have heard with Lionel Prudhomme and Cash Courtney, the other two offensive linemen who came in last year, was there was a pretty universal consensus among people at the UA that those two guys are going to be really good players, have really bright futures. So, deals got done with those guys. Miguel Mitchell, also, this was Friday on the 26th, announced that he's entering the transfer portal. Caleb James, redshirt junior defensive lineman, is entering the transfer portal, and A.J. Green entering the transfer portal. And I guess, I don't know if we talked about, I guess that's probably everybody we would have covered. Ian Gerford before that. So there are some more and more, starting to come out. Obviously, we had a trio of guys on the 26th, and then Blake Cherry on the 28th, and then Trevor Jackson on the 29th. So you see a little bit more activity with guys saying that they're going to enter the transfer portal. Obviously, as we talked about, the transfer portal is wide open right now. Even though it's January 2nd through the 16th, all these deals are being done right now. Players know what their market value is because they have offers from other teams. There's no real tampering, as has been said, with college football. There just isn't. Nobody's getting punished for it. The last thing I want to see is somebody get punished for something that everybody else is doing also. Scholarship distribution. I've got them after the Trevor Jackson announcement at 76 scholarship players. I'm not sure that this really even means anything because it's really not a scholarship distribution chart. It's just a roster distribution chart because everybody on the roster technically should be getting a scholarship. So what are you doing with the guys that, several of the guys that walked on last year? Like, I don't have them listed on this. But to me, you need to worry about your top 70, 75 players in terms of guys you're going to pay. Everybody else kind of gets a scholarship. That's how I would do it anyway. Worry about your two deep and, 20-something players. That's what I would do. 20-something recruits. That's what I would do. Maybe 25 recruits if you got the budget for it. I want to talk about that a little bit because I had some fun. One of the more fun articles that I've written, and you'll be able to read more in depth on it, it's just if I was given $25 million to manage the Arkansas football roster, how would I do it? Where would I spend my money? So I'll touch on that a little bit, and you can read the full article at HawgSports. But I'm going to get to that in a minute. So right now, we've got them at 76 scholarship football players after the Trevor Jackson announcement. I've got, 36 on offense, 31 on defense, 9 specialists total. And then I've got it broken down by classification. You can check all that out at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. But they've got some work to do at several positions. No question about it. I want to talk to you about my friends over at Walker Brothers, by the way. You can visit them at 577 Millsap Road, suite number 6, or in Fayetteville, or their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, suite 101 in Rogers. Really incredible location over there. But Walker Brothers, they've got everything from Peter Millar, Johnny O, which is where this quarter zip comes from. If you're a guy like me, I don't have a very long neck, but I'm 18.5-inch neck, so I like a quarter zip. But this one comes from Johnny O. I like it for golf. It's got a nice thickness to it. It's kind of sporty. But anyway, I picked this up probably, a couple months ago. But really like this one. Horn Legend, Vivid Sportswear. They have a deal called the Freshman Experience where, you can go in and they will put stuff together. They got 3 different packages that put you in, a sports coat, that put you in some, button downs, some nice pants, some polos, things like that. Just kind of elevate your overall style so you can experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style over at our friends at Walker Brothers. You can read more information down here on the ticker. But been friends with those guys. And I mentioned last week, congratulations to the Coles, John and Karen, who founded Walker Brothers, celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. man, I don't know about you guys, but I'm about Christmased out. I mean, I love going to see family and stuff. But I just wrapped up Christmas as number 2, and Christmas is number 3 in Little Rock. My dad has a Christmas, my mom has a Christmas, almost same cast of characters, just kind of replacing, child divorce 40 years ago, whatever, long story short. But man, from all the salt and the sugar that I put in my body, and not to mention, I don't know, 3 or 4 Christmas parties over the last couple of weeks, a 50th anniversary party. I mean, from all the the kind, what it is. It's a spread of food, and there's all these, crackers and cheeses and, olives and all this kind of stuff, and that you're picking at. And I feel like I've been in a fight a little bit, sleeping in somebody else's bed that may be a little hard or a little lumpy. I'm not saying anything that's not unique to anybody else out there, but that's Christmas. That's what Christmas is. A lot of presents exchanged, but there's nothing like seeing, the look on the kids' faces when they get something they really want, or better yet, when they get something they don't want and they have a fit. That's fun too. Or they're playing kids dirty Santa and somebody steals something that they wanted. All that's good stuff. Nothing like a good fit on Christmas. A family fight. All right. How would I put together this roster? As we mentioned, the transfer portal, it's open right now, right? These guys don't even have to announce if they're entering the transfer portal for, their representation and whatever, their parents and stuff, to be doing that kind of work behind the scenes. So how would I put together a $25 million roster? I'm just going to touch on a few things here. So a quarterback is going to be at least $1 million. A top 15 type of quarterback, 2.5 to 4.5, somewhere in there, maybe even 5 if it's Arch Manning. But I think you need to go out and spend $2.5 million on a quarterback. That's my opinion. And I've made this point before, but I like KJ. I like KJ Jackson. I think he has a chance to be a good quarterback. I just think you're gambling a lot, especially if you've got. And I'm not saying Arkansas has $25 million. We're if we want to break it down, where's this money coming from? So if you've got $20.5 million allotted for revenue sharing, you're taking $2.5 million, as all the SEC teams have agreed to do. You're taking $2.5 million off the top for scholarships, so that leaves you $18 million. You take 75% of that towards football. That's an assumption also. I think teams are taking somewhere between 70-75%. That leaves you $13.5 million. That means you need to go out and raise an additional $11.5 million to get to my number of $25 million. Which, how did I arrive at that number? To me, that's what I think teams probably need to be in the upper half of the SEC in revenue sharing and legitimate NIL, as Hunter Yurachek said. And that's what he said, in the upper half of the SEC. So to me, $25 million is probably the number. So that's why I came up with that. What I would do is, again, I would not worry about 30 walk-ons, basically. You get a scholarship. That's a great deal. You get to run the scout team. And you got a chance, just like any other former walk-on, you got a chance to move yourself up the roster. But to me, if you're spreading the money out, and I think that's a problem that Sam Pittman did with lesser funds than a lot of other teams, I think he spread the money out too far. Too many players getting paid. That needs to be a tighter number. You're too deep, basically. I like numbers of, just the way my head works and OCD. I like 5s. I like 25s. So I came up with paying 75 total players. That's, roughly 20 of your top recruits and your top 55 or something like that. That's kind of how I came up with that number. That may be too many. That might be too many players. But I think when you break it down, you extrapolate it, you're able to pay what I would consider top dollar for different position groups. $2.5 million for a starting quarterback, $700,000 for your backup. Put you in a good, safe position there. Go out and pay a recruit $500,000 at quarterback to get a big-time quarterback recruit, 4-star type of talent. Now, most positions, we're talking $100,000 to $150,000 to go out and get a really good prospect, a 4-star type of prospect. Okay? Quarterback, you're talking a little bit more. Running back, you want an elite running back, $600,000. Go get you a solid backup for $300,000. Go get you a good recruit for 150. I mean, these numbers sound crazy. Like, people are like, man, that's ridiculous. You know, a lot of these guys will go on to the NFL and make more money, but a lot of these guys we're talking about, you know, a backup wide receiver making $200,000, that might be the most money that they ever make in their life. Hopefully not. You know, hopefully these guys go off to have great CEO types of jobs and stuff, but a lot of these guys will be going pro in something other than sports, as the commercial says. But I've got your top wide receiver at $800,000, $600,000, $500,000. That's your starters. Again, this is with a $25 million budget. $450,000 tight end, $800,000 left tackle, $600,000 right tackle. Your top backup at tackle, $350,000. And then you got $450,000 guards and centers. Your backups, you know, $250,000, $150,000, something like that. If it's a top backup in the interior, maybe $250,000, $100,000 for your recruits on the offensive line. Trey, these numbers are crazy. I know. Trust me. When I had all this money to play with, and I was like, oh man, I can go out and get this defensive tackle for $800,000, or another one for $7,000, and another one for $6,000. You know, we're talking about that hybrid odd front. So you're talking a nose tackle, a defensive tackle, and a defensive end opposite the jack, which is your edge rusher. I'm going to pay that jack $1 million. I'm going to go out and get an elite edge rusher for $1 million. I'm going to pay my defensive line $800, $700, $600 for my starters. And then, you know, $300, $200 for the backups. Go get a couple of recruits for $150. That's what I'm doing if I've got this money. Linebackers, $500, $400,000 for my starting linebackers. Go get some recruits for $100,000. Backups, $150,000, maybe $250,000 for your top backup. I'm going to go get a starting cornerback, an elite cornerback for $800,000, another for $600,000, $250,000 backups, $150,000 recruits, $500,000 safety, $400,000 safety, $500,000 nickel. I'm going to pay my kicker $250,000. That's what I'm paying my kicker. If I got a stud kicker, I'll pay him $250,000. Now, again, some of this is money you want to play with. Like, you want to take your third team guys, and you want to say, you know what, there's a clause in here. If you elevate yourself to second team, you know, you're going to get this much more money. If you elevate yourself to first team, we're going to boost you up this much. That keeps you from being like complacent, gives you something to strive for. So you're not just sitting there taking your money. You know, there's nothing that can change if I move up the depth chart or whatever. There's incentive to do that. So I've got it pretty. I actually did this exactly 75 what I call priority players at $25 million. I would leave myself a little wiggle room, obviously, with a lot of these guys. But yeah, I know what everybody's saying. Trey, this isn't college football. This isn't what it's supposed to be. This is not right. All this stuff. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's a lot of money. I hate to tell anybody they can't go out and earn money, but is this college football? No. Is it a better model for Arkansas? If Arkansas has $25 million, this is a better model than just going out and recruit, pay players under the table, as a lot of programs did. Maybe Arkansas just didn't do enough, or never got caught doing. But definitely the results on the field for Arkansas as a football program don't show a team that was like paying players like some other teams were. Like Ed Orgeron is basically saying LSU did. So that's how I would do it, I think. ESPN had a good article listing the top 26 quarterbacks to watch in the transfer portal. I don't believe that Trinidad Chambliss has even entered the transfer portal, but he's mentioned on here. So I guess they've got guys that have not officially announced that they're entering the transfer portal, but some of these guys are going to fetch really big bucks. And again, the transfer portal opens the 2nd through the 16th. So the 16th, I don't know if you guys know the calendar. So the 12th is the first day of classes at the University of Arkansas. You have until Friday, which is the 16th, to enroll in classes. That is the registration, fee adjustment, full semester classes deadline, January 16th. So up to that last day of the transfer portal, you've got to get things, figured out there. Again, the transfer portal. I'm doing air quotes now. This is a 2-week-long signing period. You'll have visitors come in and stuff like that. There'll be guys that are undecided. Not everybody you're going to bring in is like a big-time must-get type of guy. Some of them may be that group of 30 guys that we talked about that really probably should just be getting a scholarship and nothing more. You'll have guys like that you're going to go out and try to bring into the program. I wonder how that group of guys is going to impact. Now, we used to have 120 on the team, and only 85 of those were scholarships, so you had a large number of walk-ons. But as I've said before, like a lot of the walk-ons that Arkansas has had over the years aren't good enough to start like on a Division II team. But I wonder now that you're offering scholarships, I mean, you can get $100,000 plus education now over 4 years paid for as a walk-on at, a school like Arkansas. I wonder if that impacts Division II FCS programs a lot. It might. I think it probably will. I think, they're probably a trickle-down economics. Choose Arkansas, new collective. So the Pigpen Collective has been kind of reshaped and rebranded and merged a little bit. I've talked to both of the guys operating that, but it's now Choose Arkansas. And I think the reason that they did that is just to make it more compliant and also help all Arkansas schools, not just the Razorbacks, but help everybody. And from what I understand, they're going to be doing everything from football players to basket. They just did a basketball player, a women's basketball player. They've done. They're going to do, like, from what I understand, like any cheerleaders, band members. They'll do football players, basketball players, just about anything. A lot of maybe the non-revenue sports. They're going to try to help there too. So anyway, Choose Arkansas. I think they've got an official launch of January 5th also. So and that's external from the University of Arkansas. That's not part of their deal. Okay. Let's bring in Connor Goodson now. Connor Goodson joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline. Fast, reliable, consistent, steady, beautiful internet service that just works all the time. ozarksgo.net/hog, HAWG. You can also reach out to them at 479-684-4900, where you will talk to a local person who knows the area because it's a local company. I've used these guys for 4 years. I've never had an issue. I've never had an outage. Just consistent, steady internet service. And they don't jack your rate up from year 1 to year 2. So you're going to pay what you pay in year 1, what you paid in year 2. ozarksgo.net/hog, HAWG. Connor, how's it going?
What's up, Trey? Can't complain too much. We actually got a little taste of real winter after a 70-plus degrees Christmas break. So
it definitely felt weird having Christmas that warm, but it just swooped in, at least in Northwest Arkansas. It seemed like it dropped 20 degrees in an hour yesterday with the winds coming in and stuff. Connor, you have a good Christmas? I know Danny's down. Tyler's down. Like, that's another thing. Like, you're out of your element and you're, eating all that bad food. It's not good tasting, but it's, not always good for you. Sometimes your immune system gets you. Danny says his ears all messed up, his eyes swollen. Tyler's down. How are you doing?
The drastic change in temperature is not really helping that. I know a lot of people that we went to Christmas with are just feeling crummy with either sinuses or like a flu virus or something. But luckily we've come out pretty good on that end. I got tore up a little bit before the holidays with a couple of different stomach bugs or viruses. My wife has been hacking up a lung for like a month now. But yeah, we're pretty good. I think it's just that time of year with the weather change, man. It's part of it, but it's part of the holidays also, with everyone getting together and hanging out in close quarters and seeing a bunch of different people. It's just part of it, part of the joy.
Yeah, part of the joy. We've got the Dukes coming up. What do you know about James Madison? That's tonight at what time is that game? I don't have
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock tonight in Bud Walton Arena.
7 o'clock tip. Arkansas is back after a pretty lengthy break for the holidays. And it's the last game before non-conference. Obviously, you kind of look ahead to Saturday. You've got Tennessee coming into town for your conference opener. They're already promoting it as a stripe out. It's going to be a really good crowd. you kind of hope they don't overlook James Madison, because while on paper it doesn't look like a team that just nothing really stands out to you. They don't look necessarily great. They don't look like a mid-major capable of coming in and really giving Arkansas too many problems on paper. But you kind of look back at some of these non-conference matchups they've had against Winthrop, against Samford, even against Queens, where they gave up 80 points against that team that's not very good. You look, well, maybe some of these same tendencies, these same trends that these other smaller schools had that gave Arkansas problems could crop up here, because James Madison, their shot profile, I went in a little bit on that in my Tell of the Tape preview from earlier. Their shot profile matches almost identical to Winthrop's, where if they're not shooting threes, they're getting it right into the paint. They're getting paint touches. They're getting shots at the rim. And the only thing is they haven't been really efficient shooting the three. So in the last 5 games, they're like 28% from three. So it's not like they're super proficient like Winthrop was, where they shot like 15 of 32 to really give Arkansas some trouble. But they have some guys, they have some dudes that are capable of putting it in the hole and really going off on any given night. So if Arkansas is overlooking them, they come out sleepwalking again like they have for certain stretches in non-conference play, this could be more of a game than they really bargained for.
Arkansas, number 18 in the country right now on both the AP Top 25 and the coaches. They slid 4 points in the last round of voting. 9-3 right now. What do you think of this Arkansas team so far? Like, obviously, we're wrapping up the non-conference slate, and then it's, as you mentioned, all SEC with starting January 3rd. I mean, they've been off for 8 days now, and then they'll have just a little bit of a break before they get to Tennessee and Fayetteville, and obviously a couple of road games to follow in Oxford and at Auburn. Your thoughts on this team, where they are right now, kind of where you thought that they would be also?
Yeah, I don't want to say that they've pretty much met my expectations, because when you're in it and you're kind of going game by game, sometimes it seems like it's the sky's falling more than it is, and sometimes it feels like things are much better than they are. But I would say that they've met my expectations around this point. Like before the season, if you told me that Arkansas was going to go 2-3 in those marquee matchups against their big non-conference opponents, those 5. I probably would have said that sounds about right. That sounds like it's going to happen. And you would take that, honestly, especially for how Calipari's teams, as the season goes on, his teams historically get better and better and better. And usually around the end of the conference play is when you really start to see them hit their stride and be able to go into the postseason and really make some noise. So I think that they're on schedule. I do think that this team has a really, really high ceiling still. There's some people that are already writing them off as, well, the ceiling's not as high as we really think it is, because, they got their doors blown off against Houston. But, I actually saw some things that, they could compete with Houston for the final 30 minutes in that game. If they don't give up that massive, massive run and dig themselves in such a big hole, I think that it's more of a game down the stretch. They outscored them by the last like 12 in the last 30 minutes. So there's little things, like little stretches, where you see this team is capable of playing with anyone in the country. It's just about harnessing that and getting it over a longer period of time over the course of a 40-minute game.
What can you say about Super Sid? He's one of Arkansas's all-time greats and still cares about the little guys.
What I like the most about Bet Saracen is the ability to make bets during the game.
How about this special offer from Bet Saracen?
Brand new players get a 100% profit boost just for downloading the Bet Saracen app.
I always played Bet Saracen out on the trail.
Time for the wager wagon, Connor.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Bet Saracen is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app, and we like to do the wager wagon, where we pick the games and pick the winners, hopefully. Connor, what do you think? Arkansas is 23.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 160.5. You were dead wrong last time.
Yeah.
It's the Houston one.
Yeah, it was not ugly. I knew as soon as Houston got up like 40 to 19, I think it was. I was just like, well, everything I said on Trey's show is going to be completely wrong. So yeah, I do think that Arkansas is going to win this by about 20 plus. I just, especially against Queens, man. It just looked like they let off the gas, and Queens went on that kind of run to really put the cover in danger last time.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that this is going to be one of those games where Arkansas is in firm control for a little while. But towards the end, they start getting the guys like Isaiah Sealy, maybe some guys that haven't played a lot. They look to that. The guys maybe let go of the rope a little bit. James Madison's capable of hitting some threes. They start to heat up a little bit down the stretch, and I think that the cover comes in danger. I still want to say Arkansas covers, though. I still want to. My gut's saying that, but there is that battered hog syndrome as well. It would be perfect for them just to not cover this game going into SEC play.
Yeah. So what are you taking?
I think I'll take the Hogs to cover. I think I'll take it.
What are you taking the over/under?
Over/under. I'm gonna say over. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a hot shooting performance for Arkansas, and James Madison's capable of putting it in at times. So
we're going opposite again.
Dang.
I'm surprised. With the layoff that they've had, I'm actually going to take James Madison and the under in this one. And with Queens, one of the reasons that the spread got in danger was because Acuff was looking for that triple. Or was it a triple? It was a double-double. Was it a triple-double?
He's looking for that 10th assist.
Yeah, he was looking for that double-double, and he couldn't get that last assist. So he kept, there was a couple of possessions where maybe he kind of forced it a little bit, and they went down and scored.
Yeah.
So that's what. But then he got it, and then they separated again. But I'm going to take the Dukes to cover 23.5, and I'm going to take the under just coming off the holiday layover.
All right, if you're telling us, especially if you're telling me, here's what's going to happen now. Since I said it's going to be the over and Arkansas is going to cover, they're going to come out and nobody's going to put it. They can't put it in the ocean, standing on the beach for the first 5 minutes of the game. It's going to be like 2-0 at the first media timeout, and then Arkansas is going to lead by like 20-19 at halftime. That's what's going to happen now. I just feel it.
Well, Connor, you've been following along with the transfer portal and everything. What do you think about what's happened so far with some of the guys that have hit the portal and maybe what we're about to see coming up here?
Yeah, I remember Blake Cherry. He hit, I believe that was yesterday. News hit that he was going, which is a pretty significant blow. Anytime you got a true freshman guy that can come in and give you some, be a rotation spot up front, that's a big blow. But obviously, with Mateos leaving, that's not a big surprise that some of those guys up front are going to follow him and or at least explore other options. I don't know if he's going to follow Mateos, but at least explore other options, see what else is out there. So I do think that Silverfield's done a pretty good job of getting key pieces to return. And obviously up front with like the D-line, O-line, you want some of that retention, even though you could look and say the D-line's not that great. Well, you also don't want to go trying to get 7-8 defensive linemen out of the portal, because that's just not feasible. Like, history has shown that it's one of the hardest positions to recruit out of the transfer portal and really stack up quality depth. So if you can get some of those guys to return and then maybe go grab some some gems in the portal and fill it in that way, I think that that's a good plan. And it seems like that's what they're shooting for. I think that it's good that the madness hasn't started yet. You're starting to see some announcements trickle out, but that's just going to pick up here as we get closer and closer to it opening.
The faucet's getting turned a little bit more. We're starting to see more and more names pop in that portal. I think Cam Coleman was one today. That's a big one.
That's a big one
from Auburn. So yeah, it's going to get a little bit more, just a little bit more active as we get up to that January.
Danny's got to say goodbye to the woods, man.
Yep, he is.
Come out of the woods.
Danny, I told he's not feeling well right now. We were going to have him on, but we'll have a big pre-portal show on Thursday. But it's going to be so crazy. I mean, just the sheer volume of players that you're going to have to keep track of over 2 days. And we're going to have a good game plan for everybody at HawgSports, just so you know, HawG Sports. We're going to have things broken down, an easy way to keep track of it, even though I think our heads are going to be spinning, with this being our first time in such a small window here. For basically things that have already happened to, transpire during this period. But also, Connor, like, we're just talking about the really good players, the good and above average players, I think is what we're talking about right now, because there's going to be another group of players that you're going to have to fill your roster out, guys that you have to have for scout team and stuff. So like there's those types of additions too. It'll be interesting to see people say stuff like, oh, great, we're getting guys from Louisiana Tech, or we're getting guys from Division II, whatever, do we not have any money?
And those are the same guys that are going to complain when, start to see some injuries in certain spots. And then those guys have to get thrust into roles. And you're like, okay, well, maybe we should have, paid more attention to some of these guys and where they're coming from and things like that. But yeah, the window, it's going to be crazy just because it is such a shortened window, and it's guys are, it almost feels like, when you go to the horse races and they're putting all the horses in the gate and some of those horses are just raring to go. They're bumping up against the gate. It feels like some of that is happening with some of these portal guys where they're just maybe chomping at the bit. They've seen all the chaos, all the dominoes fall, and now they're ready to go. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be like an avalanche when that portal finally opens.
I think a lot of these guys that have entered the portal have already know exactly where they're going.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's going to be some guys that, as soon as some of these first dominoes do fall, where these guys finally announce where they're going, you're going to see that second wave of guys that be like, well, now I want to see what's out there. And then it's just going to keep going and going.
Yeah. I mean, some guys could be impacted by who they bring in. Like you'd be like, oh, you're bringing in a guy at my spot. This isn't what I thought was happening, but there are obviously guys that have not even entered the transfer portal. Like it makes sense also to not even announce that you're entering the portal, because you could still have a deal done, before you do anything. So I don't know. None of it really makes a lot of sense. Like,
you can't really go with past how past years have played out really too, because guys have had such longer time frame to really decide and sit down and go over their options. So it's really new territory in a way that I think we're going to figure out that it's not really going to follow any patterns that we've seen before. And
the only important thing though, Connor, is that the portal ends on the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like your roster is set on the 16th, unless you were to fire your coach. So the fine print on, a coaching change is not like the portal opens, 15 days after a coach is hired. That only happens if it happens after the transfer portal closes. So like when a coach is hired, it's not 15 days from that point. It's only after. So once the 16th gets here, everybody's roster is basically completed, aside from, I guess you could add some walk-on and have some tryout players and stuff, I guess you could do, they have walk-on tryouts in the spring. So I guess they could have some kind of temporary players if they need some spots, like we see guys all the time that are walk-ons in the spring that don't make it to the fall. They're just there to play through the spring, maybe some of them work out. So maybe you see something like that, but for the most part, the guys that are going to play for you, that roster is set on the 16th. The transfer portal, the idea that it's only 2 weeks, or the fact that anybody would even discuss like, oh, good, it's only a 2-week portal window, like this will be better for us. It's almost naive to say anything like that. It is naive because the portal has been open since the start of the football season, really. I mean, you have a coach. There was a former player who told me one time, he's like, man, when our coach got fired at this school, it was a school in the Big Ten, the tampering just and this was a couple of years ago, and it's even ramped up now. Like people they're not even worried about it. Like there's, Eli Drinkwitz the other day was talking about, tampering. Like he gets a call from a parent and they're like, this school's offered, this school's offered, this school's offered. And, Drinkwitz is not wrong in what he's saying about, complaining about all that kind of stuff happening. But you know what he didn't do during that? He did not name anybody.
Yeah.
He didn't say this school such and, he just said school A, school B, school C, even though he knows what school A, B, and C are. He didn't name them, probably because he didn't want anybody to name him, because you don't have any other option but to tamper. You don't have any other option, to have somebody, a third party or something do the same stuff. And I don't think anybody's at blame here for doing it. I don't think, you can blame the players or blame their parents or blame coaches or blame the representation for doing the best thing for their client. I mean, this is what college football is until there are some, real enforceable rules. And for some reason, college football just seems to be, and basketball too, just seems to be the hardest sport to actually have rules. Until we get these guys as employees, that's where we got to get here.
Yeah, apparently you can go to the NBA and get some mid-season depth for your roster now,
Yeah.
too.
Can you
The
imagine
people-
like in the NBA and NFL? I didn't mean to cut you off, Connor, but like,
No, you're good.
they have rules against like you can't go after somebody's coach,
Yeah.
like you can't do that. And in college, like you got teams taking somebody's coach whose team is in the playoffs. It's wild. It is wild.
Yeah.
And doing it with players too. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's crazy. And until there's a coach who has the nuts to really call out people, provide some receipts, and say, you know what, yeah, we're doing it too, but we're having to try to keep up with all these people and really laying it on the line. Then until that happens, and coaches start naming actual coaches, they name players in situations where this has happened. Until that happens, there's really nothing. It's going to be the same. Or until the NCAA finally comes down and draws some hard and fast actual lines and puts some.
It could be a coach facing retirement, a forced retirement, like getting fired or something. It could be something like that. Like, hey, I'm naming names. Or a guy just going to the NFL or something. Like, this is what college football has become, and this school's doing it. This school did it. We did it. That could be what it is.
I feel like it's gonna happen eventually, but you would like to have it happen sooner than later before we get some of this nonsense continues to happen. But also maybe some of this nonsense needs to happen. Maybe you let a team like NC State or someone on the basketball side add a guy who's logged NBA minutes to their roster to just really just get
How
out.
has that happened? How did that happen?
I think right now
tell people who don't know what happened.
So right now there's a thing going on in college basketball where teams are exploring the potentially adding players who have played in the G League or overseas but haven't technically played in actual NBA games, or the big man who just committed to Baylor. He played in the NBA summer league, but he never logged any actual regular season minutes or anything like that. Instead he played summer league for the Hornets and then went overseas and played professionally, which we do know that colleges can bring over guys who have played overseas in those professional leagues. But anyways, he was drafted 31st overall in the 2023 draft. He was drafted 31st overall, almost a first round pick, and now he's coming back to college to help Baylor out with their front court depth. And so teams are starting to try to push the issue and find where that line is to see, like, well, this guy hasn't technically logged minutes, but maybe we can get a guy who's only logged 8 regular season games. And that's where that Trenton Flowers guy, over the weekend, it was reported that teams are starting to maybe explore his options. He's a two-way player for the Bulls. And so now you're reaching that area where it's just like, okay, this is like, maybe I can hear you out that, like, okay, this guy didn't, the Baylor big man, maybe, okay, he didn't technically log NBA minutes, but he guarded freaking Victor Wembanyama in the summer league. I mean, he guarded Wemby. I mean, like, that's a little out there, but maybe I could see that, oh, well, he didn't actually sign an official contract and didn't log minutes. But now that you're looking at guys that are maybe playing actual minutes on a two-way contract, that's where you lose me. And that's where it's like, okay, we've got to put some more stringent rules, make it clear, black and white, that, okay, this is the line that, you draw the line here. And if you cross it, you can't cross it. And I think that, if you do cross that line, then it's just like, what's the point of college basketball anymore? What's the point what's the point of any of these deadlines? Any guys can go test the draft waters and come back. It's ridiculous. And hopefully people like who are turning a blind eye to this will finally step up and put some strict rules in place. But
all right, good stuff, crazy. Connor. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, Trey.
All right, everybody, that's Connor Goodson. Follow him at Connor Goodson on X, and his basketball coverage at HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. I would like to tell you about our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. And while I would encourage you to visit them in person, they probably still got up some like holiday decor and stuff like that. But at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers, the best jewelry store in the state of Arkansas, 72758. Did you know you can also do your shopping at their website with delivery? Book an appointment online also. Built on tradition since 1987, Blakeman's has been Northwest Arkansas's trusted destination for exceptional jewelry and personalized service. Again, visit them at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway, Rogers, Arkansas, 72758. Good people over at Blakeman's. We're lucky to have such good sponsors and people that I know personally. All right. We're going to go to questions. See what people got to say. There we are. See what people want to know. Raw Hog says, do we take a couple of quarterbacks in the transfer portal with Trevor Jackson leaving? Without question. They are down to 2 quarterbacks. What are they going to do? I mean, you need probably 5 quarterbacks, 4, 5. You need probably 5. So you've got KJ Jackson and Garrett Wilson, and that's it. So we're looking at seeing 3 quarterbacks come in at least, and maybe more, because you've got to have you've got a 105 roster. You got to have players run the run the scout team. So you got KJ Jackson, you've got Garrett Wilson, and then you need a guy to come in. I like KJ. I think he's got a lot of potential. I just think you put a lot on his shoulders to be a great quarterback when you've got, so much invested everywhere else. I think you should bring in a quarterback that you would project KJ having to compete against him. That's what I would do. Not that KJ can't win the starting job or be a good quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's a risk involved without getting a guy who has proven and has done it. So I would go out and get that quarterback. I would go out and get another guy. And I would get another guy, at least, because you got to have 2 quarterbacks that can operate your scout team for you. Pigsburg Squealer says, "Bitty bitty bang bang. How kick-ass was that lobster pot pie?" I had never heard of lobster pie. I'd never heard about it, but the fine people at Rex's in Little Rock cooked us a holiday dinner, and it involved a lobster pie. It was like a cast iron about this big. I mean, the crust on this stuff, and then had 2 pounds of lobster in it. I ate it the next day. I would eat, if that was on my menu I don't want to get sick of it, but every couple of weeks, I don't think I would get sick of that. And I don't know how much it cost to make that. I never even knew there was such a thing as lobster pot pie, but man, it was outrageously good. Razorback 1963, have you heard anything on when spring ball is scheduled to start? Interesting you bring that up. I was talking with one of my interns, Miss Lowe, who handles a lot of our video stuff, just with her schedule and our schedule, just to make sure we're synced up a little bit. So with a new coaching staff, it's going to be, who knows? In the past couple of years, I've been able to correctly predict what the schedule was going to be. Last year, I predicted and correctly got that Arkansas, let's see, and it also depends on when I got to look at when spring break is also. 2024, the break fell April 18th and 22nd. Last year, it was the 24th through the 28th. And I had Arkansas starting on March 13th and holding like 5 practices before the spring break and then holding the remaining 10 after that. So sometime around the Ides of March, I guess. Probably. I also hear they're going to be afternoon practices in the spring. So press conferences after that, probably around 6-ish or so. But when fall camp arrives and when the season arrives, I'm told that they will go to a morning practice schedule. A lot of teams do that. Sam Pittman tried to do that. He did it in the spring one year, and they moved the classes around. But I don't know that Arkansas has ever had morning practice, at least not in the going on 24 years that I've been covering this team. They haven't had morning practices. But that's what I'm told they're aiming towards doing, is having morning practices under Silverfield, which I am all about. I love that idea. I don't like having a 6:30 press conference on a Tuesday. I end up just working all day. Like I get up, take my daughter to school, 8 o'clock, I'm in front of the computer after I do all that stuff. And I end up just kind of working all the way up until after those press conferences are over, But I mean, which is fine. I guess I'm kind of doing that anyway, but a lot of times I just look up and it's time for those press conferences. Okay, I lost my spot here. Here we go. So that's kind of what we're thinking. I think that they will open up parts of spring. I don't know that we'll have every practice open like we had the last couple of years, but I think that they will open. I really hope that they do. I think it's important for this fan base to get exposure to this new roster, and without it just being like a press conference and you talk to the players and having no idea from any independent media about what we're seeing out there. I think that I don't think that the Arkansas will do that. I think it's a good thing for this program to open things up for the media so we can report on what we're seeing out there, and also to have a spring game. Simo Hog 12 says, do you have a sense on if Coach Ryan Silverfield will go big game shopping in the portal, if he will try to spread out the money? I hope he doesn't do that. And is that an indicator of maybe not all the money being there for the players just yet? I hope that he does not spread this money out. I think that's a mistake. I think that's one thing that some teams have done a really good job at. But I don't want to be hearing stuff like, I did understand Pittman, like, these walk-ons are getting money. Like, that should not be happening. There should not be 90 players on your roster that are getting paid. Okay? It needs to be around 70. No more than 75, in my opinion. That's your 2 deep plus a little bit, some recruits. It should not be over that. So if you do that, then yes, you should be able to go big game shopping if Arkansas is what Hunter Yurachek indicated that Arkansas is, being in the top half of the SEC in revenue sharing and legitimate NIL. If they're that, then they should be able to go big game shopping. You cannot sit here and rely. I'm sure there are going to be good players on Memphis's roster, but in my opinion, you don't need to just be a mass influx of Memphis players. Yes, get some, but you need to be like, I need to see a quarterback. Okay. I need to see a running back, a $600,000 running back. I need to see stud wide receivers, like offensive linemen, big time offensive linemen. Go get another Corey Robinson. Corey Robinson was a heck of a left tackle for him last year. Go get another guy like that. So yeah, I want to see them. I do not want to see, the last thing I want to see is like a bunch of guys who are middle of the pack. You got to have star power in this conference. It is not enough just to have a bunch of good looking players. We have seen that. We have gone through the mistakes of looking out at this roster and saying, man, that's a good veteran looking roster. A lot of these guys have logged a lot of football, and that's good. That's great. But you have to have stars. You have to have elite players. A Darren McFadden, a Matt Jones, a Joe Adams, a DJ Williams, Trey Flowers, Martrell Spate, Jalen Braxton. Jalen Braxton was a good cornerback. Just they lost him, You've got to have players like that. You've got to have guys that line up against the guy they're going against and they're better than them. You can't just have a bunch of guys that have got a lot of experience, been in a college weight room. Yes, you have to have players like that, but you have to have some studs. A Sean Andrews, a Jason Peters, so on and so forth. D.W. Castleberry says, how many transfers are we expecting this cycle? A ton. Any intel on what position will be most important? I mean, it's the positions that are most important for anybody. A quarterback, a left tackle, a defensive end, a cornerback. Like, those are the positions you take care of. A good center, which they've got. They've got a center coming back. How many? I've got them at 76 right now. 76 players who were on scholarship last season who have not said, I'm entering the transfer portal, or have said, let me rephrase that. 76 players who have said nothing or have said, I'm coming back. 76 guys right now. That does not include anybody who was not on scholarship last year. Doesn't include anybody who wasn't on scholarship. 76 players. They have room for 105. A lot of these guys will be entering the transfer portal and just haven't said anything. So we can expect a massive amount of transfers. A massive amount. I mean, you're already talking about just if all 76 of these guys come back and none of the guys that were walk-ons that we're not counting, I mean, you're looking at 29 guys right there alone. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be, I don't know how we're going to really keep up with it, although I've just told our guys, get rested, rest up, get ready for it, because we don't really know what to expect, and we're going to do our best to keep things organized. But it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a lot of long hours for those 2 weeks. D.W. Castleberry, I just read that one. Posh Jate says, what are your thoughts on the new football staff, specifically Geiska Crowley? And you know what's hilarious about Geiska is I went and sought clarification on how to say his first name, and I don't know if his last name is Crowley or Crowley. I think it's Crowley. But I have heard a lot of really good things about Geiska, and not just from people in Arkansas, but people from Arizona and people, you know, that work behind the scenes that have, you know, done stuff with him before. I've heard a lot of good things about Geiska. So excited to have him on staff. And you know, some of the other guys that are coming in too. I don't know if everybody is official there, but Geiska, I think, is a nice addition for him. The staff overall, you know, I can kind of go, you know, Matt Zenitz, I think, is a good guy to look at because he breaks a ton of coaching search news. He is keeping up with everybody, and he told me that he thinks it's a really strong staff. So I haven't had anybody say, man, this staff kind of sucks, Trey. I haven't had anybody say that. I think a lot of the guys that they got, you know, like Marion Hobby, the guy has a ton of experience, coached in the NFL at 4 different teams, was the defensive coordinator at Clemson back when, you know, Clemson was really just starting getting rolling. Yeah, I think it's a good looking staff overall. I really do. I think that they did a good job getting this staff. My dad told me, like, a buddy of his went to a Memphis game, and this was before he came to Arkansas. My dad, you know, has no real, you know, reason to say any of this, but he told me this guy's like sat right behind the bench and was really impressed with Silverfield. Like, told him that. This is before he was the Arkansas coach. This might have been before Arkansas played Memphis. Maybe that's why he told my dad that, because he knew that I covered Arkansas. But yeah, I think that they have done a good job putting the assistant coaches together, and I have heard good things about the support staff so far from outside of Arkansas. That's encouraging. I mean, we talked about this too, guys. Like, when I go down the 13 on-field assistants that they've hired, not including like any analysts or anything like that, but the 13 on-field, they're at $2 million more than they spent on assistant coaching salary pool last year. $2 million. And that's including Morgan Turner, whose contract is not up until February, so his will be redone. But when you factor his in there also, it's $2 million more. That was the one metric we said we were going to look at to see if they were actually spending more money. The next metric comes starting January 2nd, when this transfer portal officially opens and we start seeing guys commit and sign with different schools. And we can look at them and say, okay, well, that's a big fish. That's a big one. We know that guy was going to generate, you know, request a lot of money to come wherever he was going. Like, we'll be able to look at it like that. And we'll have the template that I laid out also on, you know, what you would spend on a roster that big. And, you know, we kind of got an idea for a lot of guys of, you know, how much it costs to bring in a player of this particular caliber. So that'll be that may take some time to extrapolate all that out. And, you know, because it's going to be so chaotic with actually building and putting together how this roster looks as one. The way I look at it, there's a possibility we see January 2nd stuff happening. I think we'll see maybe more entries into the portal on January 2nd than guys coming out and being so cavalier as to say, yeah, I'm committing here. Because, I mean, that just basically says, like, yeah, I already knew I was going there. We'd already been in touch, you know. So I don't know that we'll see as many on January 2nd, but The way I look at it, I mean, I think we could expect stuff like every hour, I guess, for a couple of weeks of guys just to commit, exit. I mean, it's going to be insane. Carmaduke WPS says, do you think we take 2 quarterbacks from the portal? Absolutely. 3 quarterbacks, minimum. Liven Guy says, should we expect to hear news on scouting department hires and any additional insights on how much funding we raised? Yes, there will be more hires for the scouting department without a doubt. Right now, there's a report that Fletcher Kelly from Arizona was one guy. That hasn't been made official, but that was a report out of Arizona. Geiska Crowley, who's GM, but Fletcher would be in scouting. Scott Gasper would be the head of scouting, and that Scott Gasper, I believe, has been formally announced, but that's happening, obviously. But he comes over from Memphis, but he would be the head of that department. So yes, the advanced scouting department guys, they're out there. I don't know who else would be involved in that, but the importance of that is to basically, you should have a department where you've got, film breakdowns on everybody that's available in the portal and monetary value assigned to that player, what you're willing to pay for that player. I don't know when we could expect any of that kind of stuff, but yes, that stuff's being all put together. I mean, you've pretty much got your whole department filled out with like your GM stuff, because you've got, Calipari does a lot of his own stuff. Dave Van Horn's going to do a lot of his own stuff. Geiska's going to do a lot of the football stuff, and then you've got Remy to kind of oversee the whole department, I guess, is how it would work. Do we have any additional insights on how much funding was raised to improve beyond the coaching salaries? There's no way for us to know that until the annual report comes out, which, that's going to be some time before we actually know that. The next way we be able to tell, is Arkansas really more invested in football from a financial standpoint, will be the caliber of players that they're bringing in through the transfer portal. That will be the next way we can verify that kind of stuff. Chad Razorback says, do teams get screwed by paying someone starter money to recruit them from the portal only to have them either not win the starting spot or continue to start when they shouldn't be? Yes, they do. I mean, that's the same thing in the NFL too. I mean, we see guys that aren't living up to, their salaries. I mean, KJ Jefferson didn't live up to the salary that he got paid back then. We're talking, for a guy like that, he might fetch a lot more money now, but back then, probably around 800, 900,000. Rocket Sanders kind of felt like, in a way, he was getting paid for his past performance, but didn't replicate it, the next year. Of course, he got things in order when he went to transfer to South Carolina, and now I believe started in the NFL just recently. Thor Hog says, hey, Trey, I know Quincy Rhodes and KJ Jackson were 2 they couldn't afford to lose to the portal. Are there any other guys, in your opinion, they can't afford to lose to the portal? They haven't announced anything. I know there are others besides the 2 I mentioned above, but those 2 are the biggest, in my opinion. I don't want to see them lose Scott Starzik, the kicker. I think he's a good kicker. We've seen them go to the portal before for kickers who, they felt like they got 2 good ones and it didn't really work out. I'm speaking obviously in 2024. Other players, I like the idea of keeping, as many of the offensive linemen who started, like Amarian Harris, Caden Kittler, Kobe Branham. I like keeping those guys. And some of the young guys, I think, I think that from what I'd heard with Lionel Prudhomme and Cash Courtney, like the consensus, again, around those players, that they think they have really bright futures. And I think there are some that felt that way about Cherry and some that maybe didn't. So I think that there's maybe split opinions on Cherry, which is why we've seen him maybe hit the portal. I certainly like Cherry. I think that he's got a good future, my opinion of him. But can't lose guys. I think Jaden Platt's a good tight end. can't lose. It's hard to say that on wide receivers, in my opinion. I think that you can almost always go out and find good wide receivers. And I think Arkansas has good ones in CJ and Jalen, and Ismail CC will be back. Are any of those guys game breakers? I don't know that they're game breakers. I think they are solid SEC receivers, good SEC receivers. Game breakers, I don't know. Maybe Jalen Brown has that kind of speed that he can be. He can grow into that maybe. I don't know. Defensively, Quincy Rhodes is an obvious one. I would like to see them retain Bradley Shaw at linebacker. Secondary, it's difficult for me to say that I would really want to make sure that I get any of those guys back. So that's probably one reason Arkansas is 2-10 right now. I think there's a lot of guys that they can go either way with on this roster, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I'm glad to see Braylon Russell. I think Braylon, I'd like to see him trim down just a little bit more, but I think that he's a guy that can be a good running back for him. They obviously need to go out and get, in my opinion, a stud at that position. You should have on your roster a stud quarterback in the SEC. You should have a stud at quarterback, like a guy that other teams covet. You should have a stud at running back, and his backup should also be pretty damn good. You should have a star at wide receiver, a go-to weapon at wide receiver, a bully, rough and tumble, badass tight end. You should have a great left tackle and a very solid offensive line and a veteran center. You should have an edge rusher that strikes fear into offenses that they have to game plan around, a nose tackle that is a stump in the middle of the field, a linebacker who is elite, and other good linebackers. I like a nickel that is just a really good, solid football player. I don't even care if he's viewed as a guy that's going to the NFL. Maybe he's even undersized. But if you can get me Jericho Nelson or something at nickel, I'll take that guy. I want a lockdown stud corner and another guy that you really feel good about. But I want one lockdown, and I'd like a nice safety too. I mean, basically, I'm just saying everywhere you need good players, right? Did I say anything outrageous that anybody else wouldn't assume? The main thing, I want a quarterback, and I want people that can protect him. And the wide receivers, yes, I want a star, at least one star wide receiver. But overall, if I have protection for a really good quarterback, I'm going to make these wide receivers look good. That's my opinion. I want depth on the defensive line too. Let's not overlook that. I want to be able – so Arkansas is going to have a hybrid three-man front. So let's just call it a four-man front. This jack edge guy, 250, 6'4", 250 guy coming off the edge, 280-pound end over here on the other side, 300-pound defensive tackle, and a 320-plus nose, okay? I want guys right behind them ready to go. I really want, I think if you got 8 of those guys ready to go, then I think you're probably in pretty good shape. Probably pretty good if you got 8. Like to have 9, but these 3 guys maybe they're a little more interchangeable. But this guy's there needs to be a guy behind them that's also strikes fear in you. See if we got any more questions. Appreciate everybody hopping on, watching the show, supporting what we do. We love you for that. Love you allowing us to do what we do every day. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good. Everybody wrap up Stranger Things. Me and my daughter wrapped it up last night. Of course, there's another episode coming on New Year's. But we've enjoyed Stranger Things. Well, it's kind of, good time we can spend together. Pluribus is a good show. I have not watched the season finale of that yet. I just hadn't had an opportunity to. That's the show. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks to Connor Goodson for hopping on. Read all of our content at HawgSports. Danny's got a lot of good recruiting stuff coming out that has come out, of course. And, man, if you're looking for a place to go for all of your coverage on the official transfer portal opening up. Then go to HawgSports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Check out what we got going on over there. That's it. That's the show. Appreciate you guys joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.